Hello guys, my name is Jason Nepomuceno and today we're going to take a quick look to React Server Components, what's been published until now, to answer a few questions. And please, if you have any questions for me, you can contact me anytime, okay? So let's dive into it. So this is the summary of the presentation. I'm going to start telling you first, who am I? Secondly, we're going to dive in what are React Server Components. After that, I'm going to show you the differences between server components and client components, and when will I be able to use that. The advantages of using server components and how do they differ from SSR, which is server-side rendering, okay? Let's start with who am I, right? My name is Jason Nepomuceno. I'm 22 years old. I'm Brazilian. I work at John Deere in Brazil. I'm a software engineer in there, and I like to play PS4 during my free times. And that's me. So what are React Server components? Basically, they are special type of components that ends with .server.js, which is the convention right now that React team is using. And this type of component is run only on the server. So this component has zero bundle size and full access to the backend. Let me show you an example. So this is the first React Server component that I'm going to present to you. Right here at the top, the fun part starts because we're now able to import a database directly into a React component. And right here we have a regular React component imported using .client at the end. And that is the main difference between a server component and a regular React component. The regular React component is going to be called a client component because it communicates with the client, the browser, okay? And the server components are going to end with .server.js, okay? There are a few differences between server components and client components. The server components may not use state. They may not use rendering lifecycle effects like useEffect or useLayoutEffect. They cannot use browser-only APIs such as the DOM. They may not use custom hooks that depends on state or effects. They may use server-only data sources such as databases, internal microservices, and file systems, and they can render server components, native elements like div, spin, etc., or client components, okay? Let's move on to the next. The client components, they are the regular React components, so they are only going to continue what they've already been doing. So they may use state effects, custom hook and utilities that use state effects or browser-only APIs. And one thing that it's worth to mention is that server components can call client components, but not the other way around, okay? So the client components cannot import server components or call server hooks. And they may not use server-only data sources. This is a common question about when will I be able to use it. It's still under development. It's a experimental feature. The React team already published a demo, which I left a link at the end of the presentation. And they said that if you're going to use that in your professional projects, it's at your own risks. So if you want to try it, you have the demo so you can learn a little bit more about this new feature, but it's still under development, so take care. And the advantages of using it, right here we have three, which is the automatic code splitting, the zero bundle size components, and the no client server waterfalls. Let's start with automatic code splitting, which we used to do in a different way before. If we wanted to lazily load our React components, we would wrap them up in a react.lazy. And right now we don't need that anymore because the server component does that automatically. So you just need to import your client components and it will treat every client component as a potential lazily loaded component. So in this case, the photo renderer, it's being loaded, lazily loaded for default. And as soon as the use new photo renderer becomes true, a request is going to be made by the server to the browser requesting the bundle of this component. And as soon as this request is made, this component is going to be downloaded. It wasn't downloaded until this point, and this is the code splitting working for you. We have zero bundle size components, which is in a regular React component we use to import the libraries on the client. So everything had to be downloaded on the browser. So we had this size in here for each library imported. And this is the exact same code with the same libraries, except it's with zero bundle size for each of them because it's on the server component. And one interesting fact is that if you inspect your application, you will never see the file of a server component. Just the result is going to be presented on the screen because it's a server component, okay? And one of the main worries that we developers have is that if we use a library like moment.js, we could increase the bundle size of our client, and we should have no worries about that now if we use that on a server component, because it will have no bundle sizes for that, so we can freely use them, okay? We don't have the waterfall problems, which is basically when you have a API that you have to call multiple times on your client, you would go from your client to the backend. So you would go client to server multiple times. You would go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But now that you have the possibility of doing server to server, you reduce a lot of the latency between client and server. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this was one of the main motivations that the React team used to develop this kind of server component, okay? And how do they differ from SSR, which is server-side rendering? They are not in here to overcome one another, okay? They're complementary. And SSR is primarily a technique to quickly display a non-interactive version of client components. You still need to pay the cost of downloading, parsing, executing those client components after the initial HTML is loaded. You can combine server components and SSR, where server components render first, with client components rendering into HTML for a fast, non-interactive display while they're hydrated. When combined in this way, you can get fast startup, but you will also dramatically reduce the amount of JS that needs to be downloaded on the client. These words came from the React team explaining the difference between the SSR and the server components, okay? In here, I left some useful links that I used to develop this lecture. So we have in here the React RFC, where they are gathering feedback from the community. We have the demo repository, where it is the demo that I mentioned, and the React blog post, where I got everything that it's on this lecture, so you can check this out in there. And that's it. Thank you very much for watching my lecture. I left a few links about me, so you can find me on LinkedIn, GitHub, or my personal email. Thank you very much, and I hope I see you soon. Bye-bye.